In The Lost Tools of Learning, Dorothy Sayer boldly addresses the problem with modern education, describes each of the stages of the trivium, and proposes an education that resembles that of the medieval time period. While the issues she observes in modern education are woven throughout each paragraph, the last section directly pinpoints the hindrance and thus gives title to this speech. Quote, "We have lost the tools of learning." Quote, "Our education system is producing citizens who know little and are unable to remember how they learned the little that they know. Facts, ideas, and skills are taught, but in a rather detached way. The learner is insufficiently responsible for his own learning. He is a bystander in his own education and cannot therefore acquire information on his own. Ideally, in order to teach the tools needed for learning, the teacher must understand the progressive stages of gaining knowledge. The first stage, known as the grammar or poll parrot stage, finds the young learner absorbing as much knowledge as possible in an approachable way. Such things as songs, rhymes, and chants are methods used to gather the utmost information. Knowing and remembering is expected. Reasoning and logic will be developed in the second stage, known as the dialectic or PERT stage. Naturally, around the onset of puberty, the student begins to think abstractly. Here is where we find many a know-it-all. The learner in this stage has had a taste of what he is capable of grasping and begins to challenge those who seem a little less enlightened. Proper practices of looking to respectable sources for obtaining information are of the utmost importance to the PERT. Here, he begins to make connections within that framework of his grammar stage knowledge. His thirst for truth will cause him to question and defend his beliefs and knowledge thus far obtained. Logical argument will lead him to discover and begin to take ownership of his own learning. But as he matures, he will desire more than simply discovering connections between what he knows. He will seek to make sense of all things he encounters. This is the introduction into the final stage of the trivium, known as the rhetoric or poetic stage. Sayer's beautiful description of this stage states, "The things once learned by rote will be seen in new context. The things once coldly analyzed can now be brought together to form a new synthesis. Here and there a sudden insight will bring about the most exciting of all discoveries, the realization that truism is true." Subjects in the trivium were merely means by which to practice the tools of learning. In medieval times, Latin, theology, and history were the medium for teachers to train learners how to use their tools properly. Coupled with the quadrivium, the study of Latin equipped the student to then learn other languages that have their root in the Latin language. The study of geography and timeline provided pegs in which historical information could find a home. The study of theology provided the basis by which the student would judge the historical events he encountered, thus forming deeper connections to the knowledge he had gained. Mathematics trained the mind to think logically, consequently strengthening the learner's ability to break down and build back up difficult material. Dorothy Sayer's summation of these things is perfectly stated in her final sentence, quote, "For the sole true end of education is simply this, to teach men how to learn for themselves, and whatever instruction fails to do this is effort spent in vain."